If you spend enough time in procurement, you start to notice something unsettling. Not bad people, familiar people. That's what this video is about. Different faces, different organizations, same behavior. It doesn't matter whether it's public or private, infrastructure or services. The personalities repeat. This isn't because procurement attracts a type. It's because procurement manufactures them. Today I want to talk about 3 procurement archetypes you will always encounter, not as caricatures, but as adaptive forms. What people become when power is fragmented, accountability is fuzzy, and risk is asymmetric. These aren't the only ones, but they are the most important ones in my opinion. Let's start with the most visible, the toll booth enforcer. This is the buyer who believes deeply that they are far more formidable than they actually are. They relish the small theater of authority, delaying approvals, rejecting invoices, lecturing vendors and coworkers about commercial realities. They speak in a tone that suggests hard-won savvy, even when reciting policy they didn't write. To them, procurement is not a function, it's a checkpoint, and they are the gate. The toll booth enforcer mistakes procedural power for strategic power. They believe toughness equals competence. Rudeness becomes being firm. Vendor discomfort becomes evidence of value. You've seen this person before, just not always in procurement. They're the diner who's rude to the server because they think the interaction is one way. They never see the kitchen. They never see what lands in their meal before it's served. They don't understand retaliation is subtle, structural, and delayed. In procurement terms, that looks like suppliers quietly repricing risk, innovation drying up, the good vendors declining to participate next time. But none of that shows up on the buyer's dashboard. So the behavior continues. The system doesn't punish this archetype. It often confuses it for diligence. The second archetype is quieter, but far more durable. The script guardian. This is the paper shuffler, refined. The script guardian is meticulously invested in process and almost completely indifferent to outcomes. Not out of laziness, but out of self-preservation. They know the rules. They follow the rules. They become the rules. Ask them why something can't be done and you'll get, that's not how we've done it before. We'd need an exemption. Procurement would have concerns. Notice the phrasing. No agent, no decision maker. Just a process that apparently speaks for itself. Script guardians do not seek power, but they wield enormous negative power. They can stop, delay, escalate, or bury almost anything. Their files are immaculate. Their procurements fail elegantly. And when a project collapses, they point, not defensively but serenely, to the checklist. I did what I was told, and they did, which is precisely the problem. Now we get to the most interesting and most dangerous archetype, the compliance paladin. This is where procedure, power, and moral certainty merge. The compliance paladin genuinely believes they are protecting the company's interest. They are not faking it. That sincerity is what makes them effective and corrosive. They enforce minor rules with religious intensity. They avoid structural issues entirely. Unorthodox procurement or terms? Too risky. Vendor concentration? Someone else's problem. Outcome failure? Unfortunate but compliant. The compliance paladin speaks almost exclusively in the passive voice. It was determined. Concerns were raised. The process did not allow. Discretion terrifies them. Judgment feels like exposure. Rules feel like shelter. And so they become the legitimizer of institutional dysfunction. If a procurement ultimately fails while following the rules, then the failure becomes acceptable, almost virtuous. The suffering is proof of integrity. This is not malice, it is fear, metabolized into morality. Why these archetypes persist? Here's the uncomfortable truth. These personalities are not aberrations. They are equilibrium states. Procurement environments often feature diffuse authority, backward-looking accountability, severe punishment for deviation, almost no reward for success. In that system, the toll booth enforcer survives by performing toughness. The script guardian survives by disappearing into process. The compliance paladin survives by converting fear into virtue. The system doesn't select for wisdom or courage. It selects for audit survivability. Over time, ordinary people adapt. The tragedy isn't that these people exist. It's that they are often the best adapted to the environment we've built. Procurement doesn't need better personalities. It needs structures that reward judgment, not ritual. Until then, these archetypes will keep appearing. New faces, same roles. If this sounded familiar, it's because you've lived it. If you work in procurement or adjacent to it, and this resonated, you're not alone. Me? At one time, I've been all of them, but teaching and self-reflection have caused me to see my errors. To change, we need to talk about it, because sunlight, even in procurement, still works.